Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, continuing conversations of Narada Muni and Vyasadeva. So, yesterday we discussed from the life history of Narada and how he became a devotee 3 different lifetimes, including Narada Muni lifetime. I mean, it's eternal. But as he was a Gandharva, Upabharana, then he became a servant maid, and then he became Narada Muni. And we were discussing how it takes 3 lifetimes to become what Narada Muni is. And sometimes devotees keep asking how progress is not happening. Within this one lifetime, within the few span of years that you have spent practicing Krishna consciousness, we become very restless, impatient, and we think that why is it that I am not getting devotion? We should refer to Narada Muni's lifetime of devotional service. How gradually bhakti is built up, and how it can also be built up instantly if necessary. It simply depends on that particular person and the mercy of the Lord. 2 very important aspects. So, by the plan of the Lord, many of these things happened, and Gandharva became a servant maid, son, and from there he became the great Narada Muni. So definitely the mercy of the Lord is involved, Narada Muni's effort is definitely involved, his deep internal desire is also involved. So hearing this, Vyasadeva became very inspired, like we discussed this yesterday. Now Narada Muni also has got a plan. When he is saying these things to Vyasadeva, why is he saying it? He is saying it to inspire him. And what inspiration does Vyasadeva need? Vyasadeva has become morose. He has become very, very deeply disturbed. After writing all the Vedic literatures, he is in a position where he is not satisfied. So that's why he is calling upon his spiritual master and he is speaking to him. So Kim va bhagavata dharmana prahena nirupitaha priyaha paramahamsanam taeva hi achyuta priyaha. This may be because I did not specifically point out the devotional service of the Lord, which is dear both to perfect beings and to the infallible Lord. He knows this. Vyasadeva has already concluded this. We saw that. Narada Muni, like I mentioned, has got a plan. The plan is this person should write the Bhagavatam. So, as soon as he meets with Narada Muni, he is immediately telling him first, are you satisfied with the bodily concept of life? What a completely strange question to ask. As soon as the Guru sits down, before you can ask him, he says, are you satisfied with the bodily concept of life? You think it is okay. Why is he asking this? Because Narada Muni knows that Vyasadeva is unhappy, dissatisfied. Shoka moha bhaya paha yasyam vai shruyamanayam Krishne Paramapurushe Bhaktir Utpadyate Pumsa Shoka Moha Bhaya Paha. If you read Bhagavatam, there is no shoka, there is no lamentation, there is no moha, there is no illusion, there is no fear. All these things disappear. And Vyasadeva has written Vedanta Sutra. He has compiled the Vedanta Sutra. After compiling the Vedanta Sutra, the Upanishads, the Puranas, he is dissatisfied. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that Vyasadeva is the proof of the fact that simply by hearing Shruti, Vedanta Sutra, even one cannot have a complete understanding, one will not be happy. So how will you gain happiness if you say that Vedanta Sutra alone should be read? So many of them who advocate study of the Vedas without recourse to Bhagavatam should know that they will also be in a similar situation of not being satisfied. They will also not be satisfied. They will be completely dissatisfied. Why? Because that has happened even to Vyasadeva, the author of the Vedanta Sutra. What to speak of you who is going to read the Vedanta Sutra? Why you will be happy? Because it is not at all touching upon that. No. In argument somebody would say that no, but he has written Vishnu Purana, Padma Purana, and he has mentioned so many things there. So the argument given is, no, wherever Krishna is introduced as Vasudeva in the Puranas, it is only for the sake of getting moksha, not for the sake of getting bhakti. So you have spoken about Krishna, Vishnu, Narayana, but all in the context of getting moksha, not in the context of getting pure love of Godhead, which is the real purpose of the Vedas. Vedaisya sarver ahameva vedyah vedantakrit vedavid evachaham. By all the Vedas, I am to be known, knowledge of Krishna. But understanding of love of Godhead, bhakti and experience of bhakti, that has to be given beyond knowledge. Knowledge gives you maybe mukti, jnana gives you mukti. But madbhaktim labate param, that how to get, that you will get through Srimad Bhagavatam only. So although Vyasadeva wrote all the Puranas, he wrote it in the context of getting, he was dealing with karma, dhyana and yoga for all the living entities. Because that is the type of prescription and marketing that he had done predominantly. And he himself is recollecting and saying that, oh, I have not Kimva Bhagavata Dharmana Prayena Nirupitaha Priyaha Paramahamsanam Taevahi Achyuta Priyaha. That I have not done. Priya Paramahamsanam Achyuta Priya. How to develop love for the Supreme Lord, which is real the topic that Paramahamsas are looking for. Right? That's it. Tata Paramahamsanam Muninam Amalatmanam Bhakti Yogam Tat Kashyam Pachena Histriyaha. This Kunti Devi is saying that all the Paramahamsas, the powerful devotees of the Lord, sannyasis and everybody who have gone through all these things and are simply looking for honey of the pastimes of the Lord in new pure devotion, they have to be also taken into account, because that they go for the topmost honey. And the topmost honey is pastimes of the Lord, loving devotion, bhakti, all that has to be described. So it's very amazing that Vyasadeva is getting to know it. how does he get to know it? That's also very interesting. The guidance given by Narada Muni is very important. How Narada Muni is guiding Vyasadeva, who is such a great personality, literary incarnation of Krishna himself. And he is morose, not to speak of everybody else who reads without any proper understanding and guidance. He is morose. So here is Prabhupada saying, a devotee like Narada can act wonderfully by his spiritual perfection, which every individual is trying to attain. Srila Narada is a 100% perfect living being, although not equal to the personality of Godhead. Because he is explaining to Vyasadeva, the personality of Godhead is the last word in transcendental realization. The absolute realized as impersonal Brahman or localized to super soul Paramatma is less productive of transcendental bliss than the supreme personal realization of his glories. Ananda, bliss, happiness can be got only when you describe the glories of the Lord, his devotees, bhakti, rasa, relationships and everything together. That is why bliss is available only there. That has not been described. That is not there. Wherever it has been described, it is not described in terms of getting that bliss. It is described only in terms of getting mukti. So, natadha vasudevasya mahimahi anuvarnitah. You have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is bhakti. That is his real glory. His glory is not that he did the creation through Purushavasaras. His glory is not that he comes and kills all these great demons, Hiranyakashipu, Ravana and everything. Those are all very small things. Those are all very, very small things, which he can very casually do through his energies itself. But his real glory is coming and performing these amazing pastimes with his devotees. That has to be described, right? That has not been done. So, Vyasadeva is being told that very subtle aspect. And then the famous shloka, Tyaktva swadharmam charanam bhujam harer vajan apakavo atapate tato yadi yantrakva va vatram abut amushyakim ko artha apta abhajatam swadharmatah. Narada Muni is saying bhakti is such that no material consideration falls upon it. It's totally independent. If a person takes up bhakti, and if he is not successful in that but is still involved in bhakti, also he is very successful. Because he is at least given up dependence on anything material, karma, jnana, yoga, and he depends only on the Supreme Lord. That itself is a great victory. That itself is a great. So even if he fails in bhakti, it's not a failure. Why? Because he'll come back again and start from there. He'll come back again. But when you perform karma, jnana, yoga, and if you fail, it's a failure only. In karma, jnana also it's a failure, and bhakti you never touch, it's a total failure. First of all, it's a failure to even think about achieving the absolute truth through karma and jnana and everything. And top of that, you fail in that, it's no consideration for anything. But if you fail in bhakti, it is not failure. It is simply one step. Failure becomes like a great success. Like we see in the life of Bharata Maharaj. It's just development, and definitely you are going to reach the result. That's why Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita that apichat suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhak sadhureva samantavya samyak vyavasito hi saha. The great thing about bhakti is that although you may seemingly fail, Krishna will not leave you. Therefore you don't fail. You actually fail when the dependence is on your own effort. Then you are a failure if you don't make it. But if Krishna's mercy is holding you together and you fail, Krishna still picks you up. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanahi Nami Bhakta Pranashyati. So Krishna is a direct person involving in bhakti and giving you bhakti, but not so in Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, Jnana and Yoga and all that. There the person's effort is what becomes important for the person performing. Very rarely they mix it with a little bhakti when actually the jnana becomes successful, because it's mixed with bhakti. The yoga becomes successful because it's mixed with bhakti. So mostly when it is not mixed with bhakti, it is standalone jnana and karma, it fails. But bhakti, when it fails, it is still not a failure. This is very interesting, because Krishna is involved and he is giving bhakti, right? So this is very interesting. Similarly, Krishna is also telling Uddhava, my dear Uddhava, nahi angopakrame dhvamsho madharmasyodhavanat api maya vyavasitah samyan nirgunatvad anashishah. My dear Uddhava, because I have personally established it, this process of devotional service unto me is transcendental and free from any material motivation. Certainly a devotee never suffers even the slightest loss by adopting this process. As we understand what is bhakti, that you can understand from Srimad Bhagavatam only. This is what is covered in the Srimad Bhagavatam by Vyasadeva. Not that he is again describing all that. So, the story is that Vyasadeva understands instantly by Narada Muni's mercy. And this chapter ends by how Narada Muni disappears. All glory and success to Srila Narada Muni, because he glorifies the activities of the personality of Godhead, and so doing he himself takes pleasure and also enlivens all the distressed souls of the universe. Suta Goswami said, thus addressing Vyasadeva, Srila Narada Muni took leave of him, and vibrating in his veena instrument he left him to wander at his free will. So what did Vyasadeva do with this instruction? Vyasadeva actually went ahead. Shaunaka vacha nirgate narada sutta bhagavan badarayana shrutavam stat avipretam tatah kim aksharot vibhuhu. Rishi Shaunaka said, O Suta, the great and transcendently powerful Vyasadeva, hearing everything from Sri Narada Muni. So, after Narada Muni's departure, what did Vyasadeva do? Suta vacha brahmanatyam saraswatyam ashramah paschime tade shamya prashast iti prokta rishinam satravartanah. Sri Suta said, on the western bank of the river Saraswati, which is intimately related with the Vedas, there is a cottage for meditation in Samya Prasa, which enlivens the transcendental activities of the sages. So Vyasadeva took residence at the bank of the Saraswati, and he very deeply meditated on the instruction of Narada Muni. And according to that, he Bhakti Yoga Manasi Samyak Pranihite Amale Apashyat Purusham Purnam Mayam Chatat Apashrayam. Thus he fixed his mind perfectly, engaging it by linking it in devotional service, Bhakti Yoga, without any tinge of materialism. Thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, which was under full control. So, because he very strictly followed the instruction of Narada Muni, and he meditated very deeply, he saw many things. First is he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He got darshan. Then he saw his different expansions, all the Purusha Avataras, Narayana, spiritual expansions, everything. Then he saw Maya. It is said that Mayam Tat Apashayam. How Maya is taking, he sees Maya manifested from Krishna. Then the amazing thing is, he also saw the living entities. Yaya sammohito jiva atmanam trigunatmakam paropi manute anartham tatkritam chavipatyate. Due to this external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, thinks of himself as a material product and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. He saw that. He saw all the living entities suffering in the Lord's Maya, and the Lord also he saw the Lord's external energy, Maya, and there are all the living entities stuck and suffering. And he could understand Anarthopasamam Shakshat Bhakti Yogam Adokshaje Lokasya Janato Vidvams Chakre Sarvata Samhitam. The material miseries of the living entity which are superfluous to him can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the mass of people do not know this, and therefore the learned Vyasadeva compiled this Vedic literature which is in relation to the Supreme Truth. These three shlokas describe how he got inspired now to compose Srimad Bhagavatam by the mercy of Narada Muni. He saw the Lord, he saw the living entities struggling, and how they don't have to struggle this. That struggle is completely illusion. Yaya sammohito jiva atmanam trigunatmakam. Under the modes of material nature you are suffering. Actually you don't need to, because you are pure spirit soul, nothing to do with matter. But because you have accepted the material situation, because you have got into this big Maya, forgetting yourself, forgetting the Lord, there is suffering. And this you can stop only by Bhakti Yoga. This you can stop only by Bhakti Yoga. And he could see all these things. The solution for the problem, the Supreme Lord, the living entity's desire, the manifestation of the material world and material energy. All these things he could take darshan. Then he knew, I should describe Bhakti Yoga. I should describe the pastimes of the Lord so that they'll perform Bhakti Yoga. I should describe the activities of great devotees who perform devotional service to the Lord. In this way, the whole picture came to him. He composed the Srimad Bhagavatam. That is why, you see, somebody may ask, but why did he not see this before? So, as a literary incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this is a Leela. This is a pastime that his writing is evolving, and it's the final right. He has already written the Vedanta Sutra. Now, how to understand the Vedanta Sutra, he must write. So this is the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. And what should the Vedanta Sutra lead to? It should lead to bhakti. It should lead to pure devotion. So this is when he writes the Srimad Bhagavatam, because he is very clear what to write now. What does everybody require really? What essence of the Shastra should be given to anybody and everybody in Kali Yuga? Srimad Bhagavatam. Arthoyam Brahma Sutranam, the natural commentary of the Vedanta Sutra. So this is how the Bhagavatam is coming into being. And Vedavyas is compiling it in his maturity. And that maturity is coming about by the blessing of Narada Muni, who knows exactly everything about bhakti, and what should be done and what is not being done by Vyasadeva, and what should be done. And therefore this is brought in. Right? So Krishna is not speaking Bhagavatam. He is speaking the Bhagavad Gita, and through his devotees the Bhagavatam is spoken. Conversations between his devotees. Yesterday we were talking about a crucial conversation between Narada and Vyasa. It's so crucial that it led to the birth of Bhagavatam. Similarly, Arjuna and Krishna, we said, is very crucial because it led to the birth of the Bhagavad Gita. So these conversations, and within that you will see the conversation, the Bhagavatam, you will see conversation of Shukadeva and Parikshit, Maitreya and Vidura, Sutta Goswami and sages at Naimisharanya. All these conversations are meant to benefit human society. That's why it's so important. It's so important that we understand what we are holding in our hands, the Srimad Bhagavatam. What does it mean? What is the benefit for human society? Because all these great personalities, including the Supreme Lord also, they have decided how people in Kali Yuga should get benefit, and that is Srimad Bhagavatam. They should hear Shranavatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. They should hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. They should read the Srimad Bhagavatam. They should practice the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavata Dharma. And that is the essence. We may be wondering, sometimes people ask, you mean to say that all these days nobody got this point? And only after Lord Chaitanya came, this point was described. And only Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has explained this point. Well, to get out of illusion is not an ordinary thing. Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki. And to get out of illusion alone is not everything. To get out of illusion and stay there out of illusion, you require to be fixed in bhakti. You require to be fixed in bhakti. So Bhagavatam is not simply talking about mukti. Muktir swayam mukulitanjali sevate asman. Mukti is waiting to serve the devotee. With folded hands, she is waiting on the doorstep. Bilumangal Thakur is saying, Mukti is not important for the devotee. Bhagavatam doesn't speak about Mukti. Actually, it speaks about Mukti, but it doesn't, that's not the ultimate purpose of life. Muktir dadati karihichit smana bhakti yogam. Krishna will give Mukti easily, but Bhakti, it is not so easily acquired. But in Kali Yuga, the same Lord came and said, no, in Kali Yuga it's made easy also. It's made easy that simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, you can get this bhakti. You can achieve this bhakti by chanting the holy name of the Lord. So Bhagavatam, the combination of Bhagavatam, Harinam, Sankirtana is the perfect recipe for Kali Yuga. People should be encouraged to read the Bhagavatam and chant Krishna's name, offer their food at home and eat and keep the association of devotees. They will be perfectly protected by Krishna, and they will very fast progress towards Krishna consciousness. As they progress and move towards by Krishna's arrangement, they will come to know what fantastic benefit they are getting. They may not even be qualified for this benefit. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. Right to the essence, to the core, you are able to do right away. No, not have to worry about anything else, jnana, karma, all that. So, seeing this amazing darshan that Vyasadeva, seeing this darshan, he immediately gets enlightened. He knows what is to be done. The realization of Vyasadeva is very important. Many of us have these realizations because to get the essence, you have to click and understand this is what is the essence of the Bhagavatam. That we are being asked to practice bhakti, because so many people hear Bhagavatam all the time, saptaha, but they approach it in the form of karma, jnana, yoga. They do a yajna first for Ganapati, and then they worship the Vigraha of the Lord. Very sincerely they do so many things, but the person who is leading them is not leading them like Narada Muni is leading Vyasadeva. Saying, this is the essence, you miss the essence. So, it's not a common thing that people will get the essence. Only when we read the Bhagavatam we understand the essence. By Krishna's mercy. So, Vyasadeva compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam in his complete maturity and full understanding of Krishna. Bhakti is the topmost. He is at that pinnacle of understanding and explaining. That's why these stories are very important for us. We should not think that the Bhagavatam is just another Purana. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur very clearly says that Chakravarti Padam, giving it a title of being the emperor of all the scriptures, not dependent on any other scripture. A Shruti, Smriti by itself, Swata Pramana, on its own. Such a fantastic work Vyasadeva has made and created. And then it is spoken by Shukadeva Goswami, and many people coming in the line are hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing those stories. Repeatedly they will hear it. And repeatedly they have a different experience every time. Because it's fully transcendental. And not just transcendental, it is fully filled with devotion to Krishna, dripping with devotion to Krishna. But if you fail to see this, then you don't actually get the experience of the Bhagavatam. This is why Prabhupada told us, read my books. Read my books and read my books. Because Prabhupada said, I have written there, I heard a devotee saying that Prabhupada said that more than the verses, my purports have to be read. He gave direct instruction. More than the verses, my purports have to be read. And today we read only the verses. We should read the purport. Because in the purport, Prabhupada said, they are my personal ecstasies. A pure devotee's ecstatic understanding, realization. So we should not think that Bhagavatam, we were requested by many people, oh, in Kerala you should print the Bhagavatam, only the shloka and the translation, they want that. Because we don't want all these 18 volumes. So that they'll take that and they'll start speaking from that. So I said, no, we are not going to publish that. I said, why? You are publishers. Why don't you publish the Bhagavatam and the verses? That's how all the publications are in Kerala. The Bhagavatam is only so much, one big book like this. All the 18,000 shlokas in that written in Sanskrit or Malayalam and this thing. All 18,000 shlokas. But if you simply read the Bhagavatam like that, you cannot understand. You need a pure devotee's explanation. Right? So Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's purports make all the big difference. When you read those purports, you can understand those verses. You can understand what is the real meaning of devotion. What is the meaning of devotional service. That's why Prabhupada coined this phrase, Krishna consciousness. Something completely new, at least in the English language. Krishna consciousness. Bringing you to constant remembrance of Krishna, hankering for His mercy, hankering for His love, hankering for bhakti. And the person becomes totally transformed. Totally transformed. So, we should take advantage of Vedic literature. And this Kali Yuga, it's very difficult for us to read Veda, Shruti, Smriti and everything. But if you simply take shelter of the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, right, that alone will do. That alone will do for us to give an understanding of the absolute truth, localized Paramatma and Brahman realization all packed into one. Bhakti for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So you'll see that Vyasadeva, he composed this and then somehow had his son speak it. And when his son Shukadeva Goswami spoke it, it was sounding more honey-filled realizations. So we can see that there is a shloka that says that Shukadeva Goswami knows about this. And Lord Shiva is saying, I may know. Shukadeva Goswami definitely knows. Vyaso veti na vetiva. I do not know whether he may be knowing, may not be knowing. That is a very amazing shloka. Of course, we are taking a superficial aspect of it. He compiled it. Shukadeva Goswami knew it and spoke about it. Rasa, Tattva. And in this way, through human society, it is coming down. explaining the fine nuances and intricacies of pure love for Krishna, and journalizing all these great experiences of devotees, case histories of many devotees. That is how Bhagavatam has come into being. So it's very exciting to read Bhagavatam because it's not just a monologue. It's so many different instances, stories, adventure, all that centered around Krishna and love of Krishna. That's what is very, very fascinating journey towards the absolute truth. So the absolute truth is a person. He is Krishna, Prabhupada said. Getting introduced to the absolute truth and giving you a process by which you can relate with the absolute truth, and giving histories of great personalities who have done this. Bahavo jnana tapaso putam madbhavam agataha. Many great personalities in the past achieved this by following this path. You too can do that. You too can do that. So this conversation between Narada and Vyasa, this may be one of the highlights of the Srimad Bhagavatam, because it describes so wonderfully how Vyasadeva was inspired to write the Srimad Bhagavatam. Inspiration is what moves us. Etam cha astaya paratmanishtam adhyasitam purvatamai maharshibhi aham tarishyami durantaparam tamo mukunda angri nishevaiva. You become inspired that there's nothing more that I need to hold on to the lotus feet of the Lord and cross over this ocean for pure bhakti. So, paratmanishtam, being situated in perfect alignment with the Supreme Lord, getting inspired to perform devotional service. So our business is to remain inspired, inspire others to take up Krishna consciousness, and in this way human society will become very happy, because they'll be swimming in Ananda, and they'll be swimming constantly in this type of Ananda. Om Tat Sat, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any comment or question? So I will answer this question. He says that going back to Godhead, as per this prescription of the Bhagavatam, is a reality. I want to go back to Godhead, but I also see so many anarthas in me. So I don't know how that is going to happen. So the answer, both in Tamil and English. அதாவது ஒருத்தர் வந்து அட்மிஷன் வாங்குறாரு மெடிக்கல் காலேஜில். ரொம்ப நாள் படித்து எக்ஸாம் எல்லாம் பாஸ் பண்ணி, நீட் எக்ஸாம்ஸ் எல்லாம் பாஸ் பண்ணி அட்மிஷன் வாங்கணும். அப்போ அவருக்கு வந்து தெரியும் அந்த நிலைமையில் நான் வந்து இன்னும் டாக்டர் ஆகலை, நான் டாக்டர் படிக்க போகிறேன், ஒரு நாளைக்கு ஆகிடுவேன், ரைட்? ஸோ நடுவில் என்ன நடக்கும்னா ஒரு 2 வருஷத்துக்கு முடிஞ்சப்பறம் அவர் பாதி டாக்டர் ஆகிடுவார். அதாவது தியரி நாலேஜ் அதெல்லாம் இருக்க வருது, ப்ராக்டிகல்ஸும் பண்ணி நிறைய பேஷண்ட்ஸை பார்த்து மெதுவாக கற்றுக்கிறாரு. ஸோ ஹி இஸ் இம்ப்ரூவிங் அண்ட் கிராஜுவலி மூவிங் அஹெட். அதே பேஸ் வச்சுக்கிட்டு அதே மாதிரி கிளாஸஸ்லாம் அட்டென்ட் பண்ணி அசைன்மெண்ட்ஸ் எல்லாம் பண்ணிகிட்டே இருந்தாலும் டெஃபினட்டாக டாக்டர் போவார், தப்பு பண்ணாமல். இல்லை லோக்கலாக ஏதாவது ஸ்ட்ரைக் நடந்து அதில் நான் தான் வந்து செக்ரட்டரி ஆகிட்டேன், இன்குலாப் ஜிந்தாபாத் பண்ணேன், காலேஜ்லேயும் தூக்கி வெளில போட்டாங்க. Finish my degree got over because unnecessarily I involved myself in that. சரி, ஏதோ ஆக்சிடென்ட் நடந்தது, அதனால வந்து உங்களுக்கு இது பண்ண முடியாது, immobile you became, God forbid. அந்த மாதிரிலாம் ஆகிடுத்து, அதனால I could not pursue my studies. இந்த மாதிரி பலதும் நடக்கலாம். பட் அதெல்லாம் நடக்கலைன்னா நிறைய பேர் ரெகுலராக அதெல்லாம் நடந்தால் கூட ரெகுலராக வெளியில் வராங்க டாக்டராக 5-6 வருஷத்துக்கு அப்புறம். சில பேர் MD இதெல்லாம் பண்ணுறாங்க. ஸோ சேம் வே நம்ம வந்து சின்சியராக தத்தே அனுகம்பம் சுசமீக்ஷமான புஞ்சான ஏவாத்ம கிருதம் விபாகம் தத் வாக் வபுவீர் விததன் நமஸ்தே ஜீவேத் முக்திப்பதே சத்தாயபா. சத்தாயபா என்ன சொல்றதுன்னா, என்ன நடந்தாலுமே ரொம்ப சின்சியராக என்ன பண்ணணுமோ அதை பண்ணிகிட்டே இருந்தோம்னா டிவோஷனல் சர்வீஸில் நீங்கள் வந்து டெஃபினட்டாக அதுக்கு குவாலிஃபிகேஷன் வந்து உங்களுக்கு அது கிடைக்கும். கோயிங் பேக் டு காட் அப்படின்னு சாஸ்திரத்தை பாகவதத்தை சொல்லியிருக்கு. So the point is that yes, true, there is a transition occurring. So our life when you perform sadhana is a mixture of material challenges due to desires and conditioning and our great desire for pure devotional service. This goes hand in hand. So at several points of time you will see you're a mixture of these two things. You know, to greater and lesser extents for different people. But by continuing to do devotional service, by continuing to offer ourselves to Krishna, Krishna purifies you. Because you are a bhakta, because he becomes pleased with your chanting of the holy name, reading the Bhagavatam, distributing the books, working for the institution of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and having a sincere desire to achieve Krishna, he also becomes pleased with you. And he grants Krishna consciousness. So we should be completely, doubtlessly involved. Because there is no doubt if you do that, you will go back to God. There should not be any doubt about that. Because if you read the Bhagavatam, all your doubts will go. Shoka, Moha, Bhaya, Paha, like that, everything will go. No doubts. Okay? Right. Om Tat Sat.